I've been thinking about communication lately, and thinking about two different types of communication that I've experienced in terms of interpersonal and group communication, and then the communication that occurs in mass media, or semi-mass media, as is the case with my YouTube channels. The first, with interpersonal and group communication, it seems that the best communication that I've enjoyed in that format, I'm talking about sitting down with my friends, a few close people, coffee shop, cafe, whatever the case may be, on the telephone, whatever the case may be, people that are basically of a similar mind, similar experience, and people that I can relate to very well. If a topic is introduced into our discussion forum, we tend to work together to develop the content and develop the topic along lines of discovery, try to get to some end and argue out points of detail. Typically, this occurs, and I'm going to go ahead and use a culinary example. This is similar to making a fine meal, and maybe a gourmet meal where you're going to make a steak or a fish dinner, and you've got your entree, and you're going to work hard as a group to develop it, season it, prepare it, and then add a few side dishes. The side dishes are supporting topics that will be thrown out there as well. It's a fine process. Anybody that's enjoyed the good friends and community of such spirits knows what that's like to develop ideas as a group. Excuse me while I back up and try to keep my thoughts going at the same time. And there we go. We've almost got us backed up here. So when we do that, that's one form of communication, and that's the type that we most typically know before the age of mass media, before the age of the internet, and the appearance of blogs and vlogs, where everyday Joe folks like myself can have a forum to have an audience and get a little soapbox of their own. That's the type of communication that we often enjoy. However, there's a different type of communication that I've come to enjoy and experience on the internet, and I'm going to give that another example using the cooking and food. I'm going to call this the Hobo Stew style. Where for the first one we have a gourmet meal, the second one is the Hobo Stew, and I'm not intending to degrade the quality or to slight the quality of the Hobo Stew style. Just simply, I think the term fits given the style, the way it comes together. Let me describe that now. Hobo is a word that we use in the United States, perhaps elsewhere as well, to describe vagrants, particularly a type of vagrant that is on trains, the types that catch rides on trains, and illegally hopping on board. You've seen them in the boxcar Joe, in the boxcar with all the other hobos playing the banjo, riding the rails. It's a tradition. And there's various types of hobos. There are tramps and hobos and vagabonds, and there are distinctions for each. And I'm not overly familiar with those. But one of the characteristics of the hobo lifestyle is the Hobo Stew. And the Hobo Stew occurs at Hobo Camp. Now imagine if hobos, they run the rails and they get to know the lifestyle and the routes that they travel, and they may have places where they regularly, and this was a tradition of the hobo lifestyle, they have places where they routinely would meet and have camps together. This would be the hobo camps, maybe under a railroad bridge or something like that, or in the bushes beside the Colorado River. I remember Steinbeck describing one like that. And when they got together, they would have a communal cooking pot. This is the ideal image of the hobo camp: a little communal cooking pot, a big pot there over a fire, and the people that would come to the camp for the evening would contribute a little bit of food that together would create a meal for the mass. And they could, and one guy might have some carrots, the next guy a little bit of an onion, maybe the next fella some seasoned beef, and maybe somebody else has some spices, some peppers and some cayenne or something like that. And together they could throw it in. Someone would play the banjo. The simmering mix would stew away and become a feast for the group. Now that type of communication is the type that seems to happen in the comments forum of blogs and vlogs, at least in my experience. For example, I'll use myself as an example again. I'll post a video out there with a particular topic, and maybe the topic will be, as I just recently did a video about called Singularity Dream, talking about kind of a poetic view of what gravity's take on things might be, what the dream of gravity might be. for a universe coming together, all things coming together. And it wasn't really a scientific blog, it was more of just a kind of a whimsical thing. And the comments are still coming in, but what will probably happen is that some people will throw out comments that are directly related to the topic at hand and build upon that, whereas others, typically the majority of people, will throw out comments where they're giving anecdotes related to the topic in a way, but may not be directly the same thing. For example, they may throw out little bits of scientific evidence related to the idea of black holes or dark matter or dark energy, or something related to physics, or maybe something related to philosophy or poetry that has some sort of a relation, but maybe something completely different. And what happens is it's very much like the Hobo Stew, where disparate pieces of information come together to form something that becomes a meal if you look at it all together. And as the person that creates the initial blog and reads all the comments, I get to enjoy that meal, as does anyone else who chooses to read all the comments and video responses, and they can then experience it much like that Hobo Stew, a delicious, rich, filling mixture of various odds and ends that coming from the minds and the thoughts and the experiences of all the individuals who are participating, sitting around the fire that is the little bonfire that is the hobo camp on YouTube or the blog forum, and create something very special and unique. It's an internet hobo stew. As opposed to the specialty delicacy course that is created by a group of like-minded friends around a coffee shop discussion. Now, it's not always the case that it's one or the other. Sometimes there's a mixture of both. Sometimes it's very different altogether. But I think that that's a characteristic of many vlogs and blogs, and a very delightful one indeed. I look forward to it with every video I post, and I also I've tried to train myself to remember that comments that seem to be from left field sometimes, that don't seem to relate to the topic, the topic that I posted, that sometimes they offer something, they bring something to the meal that may be completely unexpected and completely different, but may have such value and may be such a delicious flavor in the end. So I try to look at them all in that way. I hope you've all are having a great day, and I hope you'll continue to contribute to the Hobo Stew here and on all the other channels and blogs that you may enter. And if you're a vlogger or blogger yourself, I hope you enjoy the consumption of said banquet in your own forum. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Just have to find that off switch.